Hello, friends, our regular viewers. Today with us, Dr. Susan Jamieson, light doctor, who is a MD and practicing functional medicine, integrative medicine at Hong Kong. She's of Scotland origin. She had taken medical training at Harvard and Scotland University of Glasgow. In the medical field, she has experience of almost 3 decades. She is author of a book named Medical to Mystical, and she's also a TEDx speaker. She's doing multiple things, but the prime thing is that consciousness. She's integrating the concept, the wisdom of consciousness in the medical practice. So it's quite fascinating, which we dream in the future every medical doctor is going to harness in their practice. That intuition will play a major role in the diagnosis, in the treatment, and we are sure that humanity will enjoy better health when every doctor will integrate intuition and consciousness in their practice. So, Dr. Susan.
Thank you. I believe so, because I've been a medical doctor for 30 years, and you know, we have our due diligence, we have our medical training, and that's as it should be. But when you're very, very intuitive, it just helps you to get to the correct diagnosis more quickly and spend less money and time on maybe doing medical tests that are not the right ones to do. Because sometimes it's hard, right? Where it's like searching for a needle in the haystack. So these skills can be taught. I run workshops, I have online trainings, and as I see it, it's just an adjunct to what's already a fabulous platform of Western medicine.
So share your detailed work, means how you integrate this non-verbal communication. What's the importance of non-verbal communication?
Well, the importance is, I've got a whole list of, I'm going to show you this. I've done a lot of research here with doctors, right? They use expressions like, I just read the patient, I understood the patient, or they had a knowingness or a gut feeling. Can you see my slide here? Something told me this man was really ill.
Slides.
Am I sharing?
No, the slides are not visible.
What's that?
The slides are not visible. They're not visible.
I don't know what to do. Where is it?
You are co-host.
Okay. No, it's okay. We're good here. We're good here. Just give us a sec. It's just a nightmare. Okay, I thought we had it. But we didn't, apparently. Let's go. Can you see it now? Is that better?
No.
Okay, we're still trying here. Where is it? Microsoft PowerPoint. Should be it, right? I think I've got it. Took a bit of time there. Is that it?
Now it's visible.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all these doctors have researched said, you know, all crying babies are the same, but this time something was different. And I saw sort of light above the baby's head, a knowingness or a gut feeling. Reading the patient, the moment they walked in the door, there was a conversation going on between your body and mine. Now, a therapist said that to me in Mexico about 2 years ago, actually a craniosacral therapist. And I like that one a lot. There's a conversation going. We're going to talk about this more because this is an area that's already been studied. And the point is to get to a quick, accurate diagnosis in much shorter time and with much less expense, because, you know, sometimes it's difficult, right? A patient has a vague problem. They've got a migraine. Well, do you need to do a brain scan on that patient? Or maybe they've got sinusitis, they're allergic, but sometimes it's very difficult to tell. And our intuition and our skill sets, and I'm going to talk in a lot of depth about scientifically what this is, but also practically and what the tools are for it. But, you know, these examples something was different, but I don't know how I knew that with this patient. I knew this one was really sick. So these tools do two things. They help us with our skills, but they also help protect us, right? Because often, you know, we don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to prescribe if you're tired, you maybe forget a medicine has a side effect, drug interactions, or a patient has an allergy. Or maybe, you know, one of these very litigious, difficult patients, or maybe, you know, so there's protective elements to being very intuitive as well, right?
Exactly.
What, don't you doctors agree with that? Though those are important as well to a therapist.
Yes, yes, it's important, but unfortunately, we are relying too much on clinical investigations.
I totally agree. I mean, one of my own doctors told me recently, I think he's a specialist and was really worried about missing something, which I totally understand. He said, why don't you just get a whole body MRI? I mean, imagine saying that to a patient. It doesn't instill me with confidence, to be quite honest. But that's where modern medicine's sort of going, isn't it, really? So these are examples from doctors I've interviewed, and I'm going to move on now to the next slide, which is somewhere. Therapy energy interactions. So what does this mean? This is what we know already. Now, Peter Levine, who, you know, post-traumatic stress, he's one of the, you know, he's a multiple award winner. He talks about co-regulation of our nervous system, the therapist and the patient. The inventor of the craniosacral upledger method talked about melding, synchronizing with and then we've got Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Elizabeth talked about sitting with the patient in presence. Now, she was the German, and then she went to America, Swiss, then she went to America, expert in the death and dying. And you know, when it was a horrible time when children, even children with leukemia, age 10, would be put in a room on their own. No one visited them when they were dying because no one knew what to do and they were very frightened. So in the 50s, she pioneered all this, you know, modern hospice movement, basically. Sitting in presence with the patient. And then we have R.D. Laing, the psychiatrist, talking about getting into the patient's reality. Okay, so in other words, somehow getting into their world of consciousness so that not only can you understand them, but they can understand you really well. So there's some physical things we're talking about here, like co-regulation of the nervous system. Go away. How do I do this? Why is it not working? Just can't go back. I can't go back. Thank you. Sorry, not taking control of my PowerPoint here. In fact, I think I'll get out of it in a minute. There's some physical things here, but also, oh, please, where's it gone? Where's the Zoom gone? Where's it gone? Sorry, I want to talk to you again. That's better. How'd you get that to be big? It seems so stressful doing all this Zoomy stuff, doesn't it?
And the present symbol is on the downside.
Oh dear. Yes, well, here I am anyway.
Downward, the square symbol is the present sign.
The what sign?
To present this slide.
I'm trying to get back to me and my talkative little presence here is what I'm trying to do. But can you see my face or see my slide?
Yes, we can see both the things. Your slide.
I don't want that. I want my face. I want my face. Sorry, my friend's trying to help me here, but I'm not being very successful.
No problem. No problem.
Give me a second, because I think I don't really like looking at slides all the time either, and I don't know what's going on.
You can upward these options. Stop sharing the screen. We can go on that also.
Stop sharing the screen. Stop sharing. Yeah, I'll stop sharing the screen. Thank you for telling me that. So stop that a bit of mess there, because Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is really worth mentioning. So she found that the patients were dying. So obviously some were distraught and some were resigned and maybe some were angry. They were terminal cancer patients usually. In fact, they were all terminal cancer patients. And then she noticed some of them would become calm and really much happier. And she tried to investigate why this was, and she asked her doctors, you know, that the people in the team Or what treatments did you do differently? Different medications, different routines with those cancer patients. And she couldn't really get any commonality. Then she discovered that the patients who were really doing well, and I mean with serenity, with being, okay with the end of their lives, basically, which is so important, these terminal patients, they were the ones who had this one cleaning lady do their rooms. So she interviewed the cleaning lady and she said, well, all I did was sit with them for 10 minutes when I was in their rooms, and they knew I was present, and I just sat with them. So that's all she did. And this is, at the end of the day, this is a technique, isn't it? So she put a cleaning lady in charge of teaching the doctors, which doesn't, amuse them too much. But she realized this was a very important thing, this being in presence with patients.
Yes, right.
So
that's very important.
Yeah, so we've got you're talking about the nervous system co-regulating, talking about synchronization, talking about being in the reality, in the consciousness, talking about being in presence, but maybe it's all kind of similar thing, all of this, right?
Exactly. But problem, Dr. Suzanne, is that I'm going just out of topic and want to discuss some reality checks that I don't know about the Hong Kong, but I know about the USA and other countries. But when the doctor is examining or having an OPD of near about more than 50 persons, it's very difficult to be present at that time. And it's a big problem. So doctor has to cut the number of the patients.
It's a very good question. It's almost impossible if you see lots of patients, you have a very short time, because it's actually too traumatizing, I would say, in your nervous system. And I think we have to be very aware of that when we say we're tired, when we say we're stressed as therapists, we're traumatized. We're traumatizing our own nervous systems, because the patients obviously are in pain. They're obviously needy. They're obviously wanting help. They are by definition quite energy draining. And, something's going to take the brunt of that. And in a way, the more you try and help them, the worse that might get. I totally get it. Now I do a lot of deep work with patients. And what I find is it really difficult to tone it down, because I work on, body, mind, and the consciousness level all at once. And I may be talking about something, like a food allergy, or like hay fever, for instance, if someone's got sinusitis, house dust mite intolerance. But when I'm talking about that, I'm working on different levels with them. And we have to be aware of the impact our consciousness has. And if we're not, first of all, we don't protect ourselves enough. Secondly, we could be much better doctors.
Totally agree, Dr. Susan. It's a must. And it's a different thing also, because consciousness is not taught in the medical schools. So energy consciousness should be a part of the curriculum in the medical schools also.
Well, exactly, because luckily the doctor-patient relationship is still at the base of every consultation, right? Even though we've got all these fancy tests, etc., doctor-patient relationship, whether Zoom or in person, is always the basis. And there's a lot of information that can be gleaned. Would you like me to continue?
Yes.
And we'll have so much fun when I mess around and don't find the right slide, right? Bit of entertainment. Let's just lighten up here. Okay, so I'm just going to try and do this. Do I have to do that again? I have to do the share screen. And then I want to go to PowerPoint. Will that work? Okay, so what I want you to imagine now is basically that...
Still your screen is not visible, Dr. Susan.
Why not? Yeah, that one. Oh, okay, we're trying again. Is it visible now?
Right now it's visible.
Wants to go. There. Okay, that's better. So I want you to imagine that you and the patient are two pebbles dropped in a pond. So each of you has ripples extending out. And this is in reality, because, our DNA produce light, photons of light, okay? Our heart produces tons of light energy, also electromagnetic energy. And every beat of our heart is enough energy to light a small light bulb in a Christmas tree, right? very topical subject. It's a lot of energy. And this light, as an electromagnetic field, actually does extend out in the shape of a torus, a very stable structure about 4 to 6 feet all around us. So it's our energy buffer, right? And we feel that when we meet people, we know we can trust them, we don't trust them, or we really like that person, and we just know they're going to be a good friend. So we're very used to using our sensory antennae to feel things out, the peace at the top of a mountain. Or we say we could cut the energy with a knife at a meeting. It was so stressed. So this is our energy that ripples in the pond radiating out. And when there's an overlapping pattern here, something happens. It actually is a standing wave in physics. And this is just definition in physics, light wave physics, and also hologram, which is an interesting concept to think about. However, importantly, when one light wave touches another, in light physics, the photons of light don't just get information from one little part they touch, they get information from the whole light wave. So here we have a huge arena for gathering information, if you know how to. But as you know, some people are just more intuitive than others, right? Some people can play the piano better, but everyone can learn to play the piano and everyone can learn to get better. But the maestro will be better from the very beginning, but everyone can do this. So this is the energy field we're talking about. And I think it's like a simple illustration that we all get here. So how do I, so now I'm going to search through my, yeah, so we talked this is a really good one. Can you see the screen? Can you see this one? Okay. So for the therapist, they might get drained and angry. Transference and counter-transference are expressions that psychologists use, the fact that basically the patient's emotions affect the therapist. If you're starting to feel angry and agitated, it's quite likely that's how the patient's feeling. It's called counter-transference. And then you get feelings, warnings about difficult patients, about, you know, you made a mistake in what you've prescribed or you missed something. So this is part of your personal intuition as a therapist that is really useful stuff. And then about the patients, you're very quick. The moment a depressed patient walks into your room, any experienced doctor would just feel it. You just feel it, right? And then you have a knowingness about there's often underlying emotional problems to a lot of things, but you just sense that. And then things pop into your mind that you might think, well, where did that come from? Example, examining a fit, healthy 35-year-old woman who's playing tennis all the time, slim woman. Suddenly the word blood pressure pops in. It turns out she has high blood pressure, not something I would ever have thought of. So that's a really simple example, but we get other examples about where problems come from. I do a lot of problems other doctors can't solve, maybe irritable bowel syndrome or migraine. Quite often I find that digestive problems start when a patient went away to boarding school, went away to school, started to have problems at university, a lot of pressure put on them, and they develop these problems. So I kind of have this knowingness, and rather like a psychologist would, I like to unravel things till I get back to that point. And then, because I think that's when it started. So these are the thoughts, the ideas, the intuitions that we have about people. And then how to move on to the next one? Oh yeah, that one. Okay, thanks. And then we've talked about well, my theories about the physics of this. Anyone who's into engineering will know what I'm talking about. I talk about transformers, induction, harmonizing, resonating. Now these are all terms. Harmonizing, resonating. You imagine waves on top of each other, light waves that are building on each other or canceling each other out. So for those of us who like me like to have something scientific to peg it on, this is the sort of more old-fashioned science. This is not anything very fancy, but all of this is going on in the human body. Induction, right? It's all going on, which is really interesting to know, because it's all happening. We've got holographic stuff, we've got induction, got harmonizing and resonance. And it's only, I find personally, some patients I get on really well with energetically. I harmonize somehow, I resonate with those patients, and I will really be able to access the core information in which I'm looking when I do that. So I haven't got my Wi-Fi picture. Oh, so I think I'm actually on the wrong PowerPoint here, but that's not the end of the world.
No problems.
Oh my God, we definitely don't want that. Oh my God.
Can we say that the harmonizing and resonating means that going to the energy field and experience energy field of the patient, and you get the information out of that, and you get the intuition out of that?
Well, yeah, because it's like, you know, if you walk into your house and, you know, your wife or your husband's really angry with you, and sorry, and you can feel that, right? You can feel it resonating from their back, even though they're not saying a word. You can feel it. So this is an example of, am I sharing the information here? Not yet. How do we do this? How do I share this slide?
You want to change this slide to some other slide, Dr.
I
Susai?
want to show you the slide. Yeah, your screen sharing.
You can stop screen sharing, and you can again choose the slideshow you want to choose.
Yeah,
Or
that's
if it's in the same slideshow, you can choose out of this also.
We're done. We're done. Thank you. That's great. I want to get this small to get rid of it. Okay, that's better, because I want to show you this. This is Peter from a workshop in Palo Alto, and he said, I've had a lot of clinical experiences as a therapist, but I haven't had an explanation for. And when I did the workshop, it confirmed to me how to connect with intuition, how to sense things, and how to learn the underlying mechanisms that were happening between him and his clients. Because this is the crux of it, isn't it? I mean, there is a purpose to doing these exercises. This is the important bit. So I think that was very useful. And we've talked about energy. And then another patient, I'm really happy. Before I came, I was really tired and low. After everything and meeting you, with all your help, I feel much better. I feel happy, and I can go and I can get on with my life. It's great. So we really impact people by not just giving them a few pills, but impact them on a deeper, more emotional level regarding what's going on in their life. Complicated words, so I wanted to screen share this. We are inherently tuned to a quantum light process, and we interpret or interface with these surrounding energies, the field, unconsciously on a daily basis. The biological, neurophysiological basis of this is that our bodies are regulated by and communicate through a light network on a DNA, cellular, and enzyme basis. This is a lot of information here, but this is the sort of crux of what goes on. So it's like being fish. This is the Wi-Fi picture that I think so relevant nowadays. We're bathed like fish in water, or like human beings in Wi-Fi even, in these fields, right? And they're all merging and interconnecting. So when you put your Wi-Fi on, you pick up all your neighbors. And the same way, your consciousness picks up all your neighbors. Or you pick up the information from your client and your patient, right? So it's just information, same way as Wi-Fi works, same way as you get information in a barcode. I want to get out of this. How do I do it? Stop share. Back to me. It's all information. And now that we know DNA, our human heritage, remember I was talking about how I came to Hong Kong, and I felt there was a resonance in the light of the DNA. Now, resonance is appropriate because we're talking about light waves. Light have quantum phenomena, photons of light. We're talking about packets of information here. So this is all signs that we need to, I think, as a medical fraternity, grasp and utilize and And maybe we can learn from this, as I say, not just for our patients' benefit, but for ourselves too, right?
Exactly that. Now we have moved, the science of physics has moved from Newton physics to the subatomic physics, and medical science is still uh, at the same point. And yes, that in different doctors, different physicians are working on this. Still, there is a long way to go for that also.
Well, there is, and I think there's so much else to learn, isn't there, in medicine especially? It's just such a huge area. This is non-verbal communication. So in the doctor-patient relationship, this is like seeing if a patient has a limp when they walk in, or you know, has a bruise on his body. It's non-verbal communication that one can learn from, and it makes life very easy. You know, I guess I've been doing it for so long now. I have over 100,000 hours of mastery in this that I kind of can't even remember examples to tell you because I do it every day and I don't note them down. But I can tell you what, patients are really impressed, and you know, that we help them quickly and they're very grateful.
We will love to listen to few examples, Dr. Susan, because you already told that the non-verbal communication is a part of communication which plays a near about 85% of the role in the communication. So in the doctor-patient relationship also, the non-verbal communication plays a big role. And as you have the long experience of 30 years, we will love to listen few mesmerizing examples you must have faced.
Yeah, I wish I'd written more down at this point because, as I say, it's just second nature to me. But I'm, well, I think as a description of how consciousness works with patients, I think this is a very poignant one. Australian 65-year-old called John walks into my office, and it's a bit of a graveyard shift because it's 5 o'clock at night and I'm really exhausted and drained, like we discussed. And he's also a man that I can just tell isn't my, you know, maybe just came to me as a woman because, and a holistic woman because I'm the last resort. So he had really bad headaches, horrible, incapacitating, had to stop working. He was CEO of a big company. And I'm sure I'm not the first doctor to ask him, you know, and he, as I say, he'd had all these tests because he'd been to regular Western medical doctors. So I was the last resort, which I think a little bit always irritates me. I don't, just does a little bit, you know, being the last on the line there, and you're kind of aware of that. However, and I was kind of tired and a bit irritable, therefore, a little bit defensive. And shuffles into my room, sits down, and like many people, I've said, well, when did this pain start? And he said, well, it started the day my daughter was killed in a car crash 2 years ago. And he's had every MRI, every CAT scan of his brain. There's nothing physically wrong. So that's good for me because I don't need to worry about those things being wrong, right? You know, brain pathology. And I mean, it's obvious the connection, as I'm sure it was to other doctors, but what you do about that, right? How can you help that guy? So, and I'm sure an acupuncturist would do it in their way, and you know, ever got the techniques of doing this. But probably because I was so tired and a bit irritable, I dropped my normal defense mechanisms, which I've been careful about. Being careful about merging my energies too much with patients, and I just went up and touched his forehead. It seemed like a reasonable thing to do to connect with him, and he has got a headache in the end of the day. Doctors are still allowed to touch their clients. So I just touched him, and because my heart opened in that moment in compassion. It was a really horrible story, right? And my heart just opened, and I think this is one of the tools actually, is surrender, not one that comes easily to ego-driven doctors, that's for sure. And we're also like not just ego-driven, but also prescribed in how we're supposed to act, formulations. And I put my hands and didn't really do anything. And he just looked at me in tiredness and surprise and said, my goodness, that's the first time in 2 years that my headache's gone. And that's it. He like left, you know. So that's one story of Now, I think what happened there is, as I've said, there's various tools for this work. One of them, and in the world of quantum light, healing can come before diagnosis because time doesn't exist in that world. It exists in our world, my world, right? But not in that world. So the other thing is, it just happened. It was out of my control. It happened. It just happened, right? It was grace. Grace is a particularly Western Christian word, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's like that doctor said, I saw light above the baby's head. It alerted me to something. One of the doctors I interviewed, that baby, all babies crying sound the same. That one was really sick. So a little interesting thing here is, yes, you've got that overlapping light waves for sure in the energy field, but the compassion is an extra ingredient, let's say, a little spark that adds in an extra something and helps a mini miracle happen. So mini miracles happen all the time, I think, in lots of offices and lots of places, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. You use three things in the example. One is the compassion, second is the surrender, and third, most important thing is the grace, which leads to a healing.
So do you use the word grace? Tell me about that.
Yes, we also use the word grace in India also.
Oh, is it from religious thing, or what does it mean?
Mostly the grace is from the religious thing in India.
Is it in Hinduism?
Yeah, in Hinduism.
I didn't know that.
Like
Oh, I'm
we
learning.
use the word grace of God, the grace of God, and like it's a even in different therapies also, in the energy healing also, we first remember God or Isht or our Devta, we call it in Hindi, and after that we start the therapy.
Well, what we need to know, I was going to say need to remember, but what we need to know is that if we are made in the image of God, which I believe to be true, then the light of our DNA is the light of everything. We are connected. And why shouldn't there be mini miracles? Are you still there? No, you've gone away. I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Actually, my battery was
Oh, your
just
battery's not
dying.
here. That happened to me last time I talked to you guys, and I felt very foolish.
Right, I have to switch on my laptop charger. Yes, one of participants had told that the Hindi word for grace is kripa.
Well, I'm learning. I never knew. And do you have anything like the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is, I think, is grace, really. The feminine aspect. Well, you have a lot of feminine goddesses, of course, but the feminine
Yes.
aspect of the Holy Trinity.
Dr. Ranjan can elaborate on this. I think actually today Dr. Ranjan
We lost
that
him.
would, yeah, he actually he's today he is in Hyderabad for some meditation session for 5 days. Actually, Dr. Ranjan is doing this session from Hyderabad.
Oh my gosh, he's probably in silence and trying not to speak to us.
It's not
Although
like
he
that.
might just get bored.
because of signals, because of signal problem. I think.
And where are you speaking from?
I am speaking from Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is a place in Gujarat. It's the western part of India, and Dr. Ranjan is at Hyderabad.
Fabulous, fabulous. So,
I'm at Hyderabad,
so we're getting very spiritual and religious now, but this is
the capital of India.
do you want a bit more then? Do you want a bit more of this spiritual religious? Because I have got more of this. How do I do the screen share properly? This time I've got to learn how to do this one.
Yes,
Didn't work last
please.
time. This one
Kindly do share more of.
Yeah, okay, so we'll get there. I think that's the right one. Actually, I don't know if that's the right one or not. Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Never mind. It gets a bit complicated for me. So I wanted just to go over the tools for this. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, presence, focus, and intent.
Right, so presence, and presence really is, I mean, I have a laser-like presence sometimes. It's like what I call phase and lock. And it's very interesting this because it's laser-like, it's intense, it's completely focused, right? And intent is, in the beginning, you have to have intent to help someone and want to help someone, or else you get, you have to, right? So intent maybe should come first. So being present, not being worrying about your Zoom not working, or your the fact that you've got a whole pile of patients and you're late. That's not present, is it? But unfortunately, it is life. So trying to get out of that. Focus is so important. And yet, in my other slide, distributive consciousness is almost the opposite to focus. So distributive consciousness is what conductors use when they have maybe 20 orchestra thingy-wingies. I want to get out of this now. How do I get out of it? So I'm just getting out of this. Now I've shown you my slide. How do I get back to my face? Yeah.
Stop sharing the slides. You can on the.
That's
upside.
it. That I must learn that one. Okay. And it's like, not focusing on one thing, but focusing on a lot of different things at once. And I suspect Indians, it is a very right brain. I suspect you're much better at this than Westerners, right? So if you're looking at a patient, for instance, you've got, they say this, I've got a sore shoulder, doctor, right? Common problem. And you're like, focus on the shoulder. That's single point, that's single pointing. And all you'll ever get is a shoulder diagnosis or shoulder answer. So if you open up your focus to 2 points, now you might do this, it's a silly example, but it's a kind of good one, by doing the top of the head and the shoulder, because it could be any 2 points, frankly. Suddenly you have changed from singularity to plurality, because on a line, there are an infinite number of points. Okay, so on one line, there's an infinite number of points. In 1 point, there's 1 point. So just by changing your perspective, this is a little technique right now. You could just look at someone, any part of the body, and then connect it to the top of the head with the line. And then suddenly you've opened your perspective up. I mean, you could connect it to the light bulb above them if you wished. But the point is to open your perspective up so you have more ideas flooding into your head and more creative solutions for that patient. So that's distributive consciousness. And we can all do that really easily, actually. We do it automatically. Like if we're looking for a friend standing on the other side of the shopping mall or the street, we'll see about 10 people and we'll keep them all in our consciousness and we'll filter the one that looks most like our friend. So that's the same thing, really, except we don't know we're doing it. A bit like the fish in water or the humans in Wi-Fi. We're bathed in this light field, and we're using it to swim in the current or float in the pond in different ways, but we don't know we're doing it because we're doing it unconsciously. So my techniques are about using all these things that we do every day and doing it consciously now, so we get better at it.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on focus and being present? Can we say that being present, focus is like mindfulness, being mindful at that time?
Possibly get a lemonade from the fridge. Thanks. Yes, I mean, mindfulness is being focused and mindfulness is being present, as far as I'm aware. So it's a really important part. Whatever you do, you're being present, right? I think being present, mindfulness would be a good definition. However, distributive consciousness is almost the opposite. As I say, you're opening yourself up to lots of possibilities and your consciousness. So imagine, I like this one. Imagine you've got a hive of bees around you, and that's your consciousness, okay? And the bees are getting further and further away from you, so your consciousness is extending.
Right.
Okay.
And right now you told about the changing our focus, like you've given the example of shoulder, that we can choose for another point on the top of the head also. Is it opposite of the things which are going on right now in the medical field, right? There are super specialists are there. Some person is the heart specialist, he will see only heart, and someone.
I'm an integrative generalist, so I have a totally opposite point of view, but I refer a lot. I know when to refer as well, because, because you have to. You may know the cause of someone's chest pain, but they're also likely to perhaps have a heart attack anytime as well. I mean, you may know it's emotional pain, but in fact, they've got high cholesterol and blood pressure as well. So we all need our specialists. Excuse me a second. So we were talking something very interesting just now. I'm going to go back to my slide. I was talking about the tools we had. We had focus, presence, and intention. I think that's kind of obvious. So wait a second. So I'm going back to the slide on the PowerPoint. Where's it gone? Yes, this one, I think. Share. Is that shared? Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Oh,
Entrainment.
that's absolutely amazing. Amazing. Now, this is a nice little slide here. I may as well show you since I happen to find it. So I believe that healing, and this is a really big picture here, but whatever, is the periodic entrainment. Entrainment is something that happens with waves. Waves, you know, if you're musical, you know this, that musical waves build on top of each other to have different notes. Periodic entrainment of brain waves with whole body biomagnetic emissions and the Schumann resonance of the Earth's atmosphere. So I in no way exclude the energy of the Earth from this. It's a little bit complicated, but for those of you who get it, you'll get it. The energy of the Earth is also important to all this stuff I'm talking about. How do I get out of it? Okay. But that's not the slide I was going to mention, because there was a slide on, tools too. This is it, the second slide on tools. So distributive consciousness is moving one's consciousness from limited to infinite possibilities, singularity to plurality. Now, the next one is Wu Wei. This is a Chinese term about surrendering to a whole body phenomena, leading to wholeness and resonance. So Wu Wei is really about surrender. And it's the path of least resistance is another word for it. This is what the Chinese call it. The path of least resistance, leading to wholeness and resonance with whatever you want. And whatever we want is talking about helping our clients. There was a third one here, and it's a comment from a master, Jesus, who, this is, remember we talked about the guy called John who suddenly lost his headache when I touched him. Yeah. And Jesus said, when two of you are present, I shall also be there. So something about not one person, but two people, and interaction of their energies. Remember we looked at that. It was like an interference pattern, which in physics is the hologram. And it is a third thing, isn't it? It's the third thing. So exactly. There's three things in the room, but also the compassion aspect, I feel I was part of this, so that it allowed grace to, it allows grace to come in. So basically, the point is, when two people are there with similar intent, one person wanting to get healed, one person wanting to heal, it's not, the person wanting to heal doesn't heal them, of course, but there's a catalytic reaction with the overlapping light waves that allows healing to occur. And we may call that grace, and we may call that Holy Spirit, or different things. Excuse me one second. But that's what I believe happened in that example. What do you think? Do you have experience of that?
Yes, totally agree, Dr. Susan, that when two persons come in contact, they have their own energy field. One is willing to be healed, one is ready to give her services and his energy field. So when two energies come in contact and both have the pure intentions that something is there which is working, you already told that we can call it by different names, and which is and it's out of our definition also. It can't be defined actually.
So there's a lot of aspects to this that are quite sound esoteric, but at the end of the day, it might just be helping someone with their irritable bowel syndrome, diarrhea, bloating, and pain. However, this comes into everything. Okay, this is not, I mean, yes, it is a special technique, but it's only technique to make you better at what you do already. You may be a craniosacral therapist or a naturopath or an MD. You know what I mean? Because people think, oh, well, what do you do then? Well, actually sit And when the patient's telling me the history, I listen to the energy. And you know what? You hear something that's dissonant, something that's just not quite right, and you catch it. And then that will be the entry to the pain and the problem. In the story they tell examples being my irritable bowel syndrome and abdominal pain started when I went to boarding school in age 12, and then, or as I heard the other day, I suddenly developed this fatigue and diarrhea at boarding school. I was fine for the first 2 years. Then I had an enormous fight with the other girls in the school, and I felt different and I felt ostracized and I was all alone. I came from Hong Kong. They were all British. Obviously, a big emotional event had triggered this, right? So that's what I mean. You're hearing a very ordinary story in a way, but you pick out, you get good at picking out the dissonance, or maybe what's not true, or what the trigger was.
Yes,
I can,
very
yes,
true.
very true. And I can feel that this is not an ordinary story, and this is something very extraordinary. We can say that.
Yeah.
One thing, Dr. Sen, you already told that one example that was really fascinating and different, that touched the head of a person and the headache was gone. That you enter in the energy and you can feel the energy of the patient. There is some block, some problem is there. You can feel that pain also. You used already word compassion for that. Is there any something, some example is there where there is some chronic disease and you felt the energy and the patient was healed?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if I like these two examples because they're really interesting, but I had the Cambodian patient from the killing fields of Cambodia. Quite often, the moment I put my hand on someone's abdomen, it will start rumbling. I mean, the energy of the body actually responds to my hand. And I can just tell there's something not right there because of that. It just responds, right? And I can also tell there's a problem. And it's more than experience. It's more like intuition, I would say. But the Cambodian lady got better immediately. She was about my age. She'd been in the killing fields of Cambodia. That means in the regime of Pol Pot, he massacred thousands of people, the intelligentsia, the doctors, the people who were a little bit more wealthy, because they were a threat, I guess. And in her village, her father was a doctor, and they got rounded up at 4 a.m. by the police, who were laughing, or actually it was the army, not the police, laughing, and marched the villagers out of the village and said, just get out, take your belongings and get out of this village now. If you take the path to the left, it's full of landmines. Take the path to the right, the soldiers will shoot you. So she remembers as like a 7-year-old stumbling along with her parents on the path to the left. They chose the landmine path. And as the hours went by, people got blown up. And she said that she remembered the world of the dead being more real than the world of the living. Now, that memory that story did not come easily, because she never told it to anyone. And she's now much older, right? Over 40. But she's had abdominal pains all her life, as usual, CAT scans, etc. Not diagnosed because, well, there was nothing to find really. It was somatic abdominal pains in her case. And they got better sometimes, then they got worse again. But it was this deep trauma in her abdomen. So, but the story, difficult to elicit. Now, remember, I only have 30 minutes with patients. I'm not some therapist who's sitting there for 10 hours getting all of this. I have to get it really quickly in the first 10 minutes, usually first 5 minutes. And it's good that she's been investigated by other doctors, the colonoscopies, the endoscopies. We don't need to talk about that. So how did I elicit this? Again, you hear it in the dissonance. You ask about their life, And you don't want the boring details which people tend to give you. You want more the big picture and the emotional situations. And she'd never told anyone this story. So what made her tell me? And I do ask myself that, why did I get the story? Because this is classical catharsis. When people tell the story, the pains go.
Mhm.
It was the presence and the focus and the intent. Okay, so this is why it's really important. These are not small words, they're huge words. And I didn't rush her, no, but bear in mind, I got this in 10 minutes, 15 maybe, because I don't have hours to do this. But she decided to open up to me because it was appropriate for her to do so at that time, because of my energy interacting with her energy, feeling safe, feeling held, feeling appropriate, all that. And then she lies down, and I asked her to lie down after I got the story. Asked her to lie down to examine her abdomen. And to me, this is important, right? I'm a medical doctor, and I touch to connect also. And I would say with my intention, some people call it psychic surgery, I believe. But with my intention, I removed this. I made the intent to remove this unwanted emotion of trauma, really. And this is in less than half an hour, all of this happens. You get the symptoms, you get the problem, you history, and then something happens, right? So I think that's a pretty major one, very psychosomatic example, but real.
Very, very, very real and heart touching. And you use the word psychic surgery, right?
Yes, because I know that people that's a term that people use, but it wasn't surgery, of course. I was just in my mind and my intention, just removing it, helping her remove it.
Actually, I am listening this word psychic surgery first time. We know about the sound surgery, energy surgery, and other things, but this is something more relevant. The term psychic surgery, the presence of someone and the energy of someone uh, healing other person. Yes, we are very aware about the healing things, healing touch and everything. But this word is I'm listening first time.
Well, I'm not a psychic surgeon and I don't really do that, but there was this, I think there's some element of just intent and assisting someone in their pain, which is, of course, what compassion is, isn't it? Compassion is being within pain.
And Dr. Susan, I just want to ask one question, which is from my side, that it is just a hypothetical question.
Yeah, I'm listening. Go on.
When some doctor from other country came and he or she has a long experience and they are sharing these kind of things. This is some hypothetical question that if you are made to change the curriculum of the medical school, you are already graduate from the Harvard. What are the 3 things you will add to make it more holistic? The top 3 things which are must.
Sorry, what are the 3? No, my screen share. Where's my?
This was a hypothetical question that if you have been given the choice to change 3 things in the curriculum of medical school, what will those 3 things you want to
I think
add in
people should
curriculum?
definitely get much more tuition in mind, body matters, mind, body, and consciousness and energy, because as the American Medical Association pointed out, this is patient driven. So if doctors want to be in a position of ignorance, well, way to go. It's not really my thing. But they're going to be very soon in a position of ignorance and be marginalized by patients who are quite educated in this, want it, happy to pay for it. And I'm not just talking about energy healing or something. I'm talking about acupuncture, osteopathy, naturopathy, homeopathy, complementary therapies, craniosacral therapy. And so a lot more on energy psychology, energy medicine, energy psychology and emotional freedom technique, this type of thing. And that will really help if they have an awareness So I think that's it. Energy psychology, energy medicine, mind, body. Yeah.
Superb,
Sure.
superb. All these things are must. I think osteopathy, homeopathy, naturopathy, then energy healing and energy psychology are the must that they should be taught in curriculum, and every doctor and every therapist, because the little meaning of doctor is the healer.
Yeah. Is it? I didn't know that. Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
How is that?
Yeah, but the little meaning of doctor is a healer. It's not like but doctor means giving the prescribing the drugs and medicines. The if we go the uh, what a science of word is known as, I'm forgetting the word. It is healer.
Well, that's really good to know. And you've just incentivized me talking to you. I have 3 online courses: the art and science of intuition, connecting to yourself, and I've got a lot going on. But I think I'll do another one for actual medical doctors who might want to have some more tools in this area or some mentoring. And I haven't done that. I've been doing it for the interested public. In my website is just my name.com, susanjameson.com.
It will great, Dr. Susan, if you can share with us how our viewers, our doctors can connect with you, and what kind of courses you offer for the general public, and you are right now thinking about some course for doctors also.
Learn how to do this finally. Okay, so this is how to connect with me. I have a website here.
Screen
Can you see it?
is not visible, Dr. Susan.
Why not? Why not? Why is it not visible? You have to keep doing this every time, don't you? Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I got there on the wrong
It's
slide.
visible.
We'll get there. So that's my details and my email address for people to find me. And actually, there was going to be a gift for all you guys, but basically I'm just working out where that has hidden itself. This one, you can use this one, free gift for you, susanjameson.com/passo. So susanjameson.com/PASO. There's a free gift for all you guys, a sort of energy medicine workbook, okay? Which is going to be just some light exercises, etc. And then I'm on all the social media if you'd like to connect with me there, because I have a lot going on that we've talked about, and there's so much. This is me in my office, by the way, and talking about all the energy thingies that are going on, the energy, the quantum tunneling, the holographism, the non-local phenomena, inductance, magnetic energy of the hands that have so much magnetic and electrical energy here when we actually touch people. So much more is going on than what would seem to be apparent through this little interaction here of listening to a patient's chest.
Dr. Sen, when I was going through your website, I have seen that in your hospital, in your clinic, there is staff of near about more than 15 persons, and you offer different kind of therapies. Can you elaborate what kind of therapies and how you decide that what is good for which patient, and though it's a patient centric, and how the things are decided, and what kind of therapies are there, what kind of different things are there?
First of all, I should let you listeners know that my medical site is drsusanjameson.com is my Hong Kong medical practice. susanjameson.com is more energy, okay? And the online, so they're quite different practices. But to answer your question, patients tell you themselves, maybe they have, they have some mild problem like mild IBS or migraines happening every 2 months, too often. And you could obviously other doctors give them drugs, and that's fine. They have to take a lot of those. However, often people want different solutions. So you might think, oh, the acupuncturist might work for this, but then the craniosacral therapist might work for this migraine, or maybe even the physio, because they've got really tense muscles in the shoulders and neck. And patients tell you because often they say to me, well, actually, my friend went for acupuncture and I want to try it, or I'm really scared of needles. So I feel all the modalities work. What counts is the experience and how good the person doing them is. So that's what really counts. And then, digestive health and the gut microbiome is just another area, isn't it? Which I do a lot of work on that. I do tons of work on that.